Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hello, everybody. Hello, Janelle. Hello, Sam. Hello, Bailey. Hello, Taylor B. Hello, Heldy. Good. What's up, Trevor? A pleasant good morning to you all here. TDN Daily, 629 edition of the show. Uh, Looking forward to today's contest when we are going to look at the all rookie team on defense. We did the offensive show earlier in the week. We're going to do the defensive show here today. What's up, Braden? Taking a quick break while weed eating? Chat, please help. What is weed eating? Finally caught up on all the positional rankings episodes yesterday. Well, glad that you're caught up, Braden. Hopefully you enjoyed the series. But I'm very, very distracted by whatever weed eating is. So if you would like to help Braden, or if somebody else in the chat would like to help me here, because I'm very confused. Weed whacking, whatever you want to call it? Wait a minute. There's another term for weed whacking that isn't weed whacking, and it's called weed eating. I have never heard of this until today. Now, weed whacking, yes, I've heard of that. I've never heard of weed eating. Because you don't really eat the weeds. If you use a weed whacker and you chop down the weeds, it's not like the machine itself eats the weeds like a lawnmower. Like a lawnmower eats up the grass. I would not refer to it as weed eating. That's not how I would refer to it as. Sorry, folks. I forgot to turn the light on here, the ring light behind the setup. So give me 2 seconds, and we will get started. Yes, that is a common term, Chris. No, I don't believe you. You guys are making it up. You guys are trolling me today. I've always called it weed eating. This is a common term. Sorry, I'm just going with whatever these Midwest people call it around here. Guys, I can't. I mean, we're gonna go to the big screen now because I really just don't have any other place to go. But what? No, I'm not getting on board with this. What defensive formation are we playing in? Playing in this nickel. So here's what I did. You're going to hear it twice because I'm going to say it for the podcast audience once we get started. We've got 2 defensive end edge spots. We got 2 D tackle spots. We've got 3 linebacker spots. We've got 2 corner spots and 2 safety spots. That's what we're doing. I will tell you, one of our safeties might not be playing safety at the NFL level this season. Actually, both safeties might not be playing safety at the NFL level this season, but they're classified as safeties, and so we're putting them down. So that's how we're doing this. I'm not playing a specific formation. This is just how I've decided to break it down, just so we have 11 spots. Do I feel great about having 3 linebackers that I needed to select for this? No, absolutely not. I would like to move it to 2 and then make an adjustment. But if we do that, if we remove a linebacker and then add a nickel spot, then we're going to have to do some stuff on the fly. And so I'll leave it up to you guys here in the pre-show chat while I'm doing the introduction to tell me what you guys want to do. If we want to make that change, we can do it. We're just going to be then doing it on the fly, literally, because I do not have that currently set up that way. So now Sam Teets is throwing in the Discord about weed eating Midwest. I just disagree. I just disagree so strongly that we are referring to this as weed eating, because again, it does not eat the weeds. It just leaves them there for you to pick up later. But that's okay. I would prefer nickel because it's more common, and I think there are better corners this year. Okay, I mean, yeah, I'm going to do the intro, and then we'll talk about it. All right, so here we go. We're going to get started here on the show today. Appreciate you all being here. Hope you're having a great start to your Thursday, and let's have some fun here on the show. Let's get it started. And welcome in to the Thursday edition of the TDN Daily podcast. Chris Schubert back with you here once again on the show. Hope you are all having a fantastic start to your Thursday. As always, we've got a fun one in store for you here today on the show. Earlier this week on Tuesday, we predicted the all-rookie team on offense. And of course, if we're going to do a series like this, we then have to look at the defensive side of the ball. So Chad Reuter over at NFL was the inspiration for this. He did this story where he looked at the offense, and I was like, oh, okay, we'll do this. We'll come up with a list. We like doing lists here on the show. And so now we're going to do the defensive side of the ball as well. I will tell you, we've had a couple of different pre-show conversations. I'll let you in on both. You're going to be very, very confused as to one of them. We were discussing the phrase weed eating in the pre-show. That's all context I'm going to give you, podcast audience. Another reason why you need to join us over on the live YouTube side of things. And the other pre-show conversation we were having is how we were going to break this down. And I will share with you all that at the start here on the show, we've got 2 defensive tackle spots, 2 defensive end edge spots, 3 linebacker spots, 2 corner spots, and 2 safety spots is the current composition of the list that I've made ahead of time. Now, I will tell you, the chat has asked for us to maybe pivot and get rid of a linebacker off of this list and to add a nickel spot to our group. And I'm okay with that. We're just going to have to do some work on the fly because one of the guys that I have listed at safety, I think is going to be my selection for nickel. And then that forces us to have another conversation about safety. So if that's what we're going to do, this is the linebacker that's going to get removed. You guys can't see this. You guys can't see the linebacker that's going to be removed. And then I'm going to add this into the list real quick. I'm going to move this guy over, and I have an open safety spot. And so we will get to that conversation when we need to. But let's start with the front of our defense. The 2 defensive end edge spots, and then the 2 D tackle spots. So 4 players going to make up the composition of our offensive line. And we'll start with the edge group. I've got 2 names written down here, obviously, one of which I thought was relatively easy to write down, and the other name was a little bit more difficult to come up with who I wanted as my second edge. For me, the top option and the easy slam dunk option needed to be Will Anderson Jr. of the Houston Texans. Look, situationally, he's in a great spot to be able to succeed. He's got a great coaching staff, specifically because D'Amico Ryans is his head coach, a guy with a defensive background, a guy who knows a thing or two about developing really good pass rushers and overseeing really good pass rushers. And so for me, the opportunity is going to be there. It's going to be able to play. It's going to be coached up really well by the head coach that he's got. And so I don't know how you don't view the guy that was the 3rd overall pick as one of our 2 options here for our defensive end edge spot. Now, I will tell you, for the second spot, we've got options here. We could go with Tyree Wilson. We could go with Lucas Van Ness. We could go with Will McDonald. We could go with Felix Anudike-Uzomah. We could go with Isaiah Foskey, just reading down the list. Keon White, some of the early defensive ends that were taken. And I think I'll let you in on what my logic was here, because I looked at all these guys and I evaluated each one of their situations. And none of them are really slam dunk home run situations where you can very easily see the path for X player to have an immediate impact. And I wanted to strike a balance from taking a guy who maybe got drafted in one of the later rounds that might be able to find a role, but maybe isn't as talented as one of the guys that was taken early, over the guys at the top of the draft board that got taken, but maybe might have a little bit of resistance to getting on the field right away. Kind of wanted to strike a balance between both ends of that spectrum. And so when looking at this, I looked at all the guys at the top. I looked at all the guys that were drafted over the first 2 rounds, and I found a very similar feeling with every single one of them. There's immediately somebody that you could say could be in their way, stopping them from having a full-fledged role. And that goes up and down the board. Lucas Van Ness, Will McDonald, Tyree Wilson, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, Keon White, Isaiah Foskey, all these guys that were drafted in the first 2 rounds. You can say that there is somebody that's in front of them that could stop them from getting on the field right away. So with all that being equal, at least in my opinion, that they all have kind of the similar roadblock in their way, I went with the guy that I thought was the best player. And so I have Tyree Wilson listed as our second edge here for this all-rookie team. Do I love it? No. Do I feel super confident in it? No. But for me, Tyree Wilson is too talented, I think, to not be on the field early, specifically with the way Chandler Jones played a year ago. And so I think he's going to be able to be opposite of Max Crosby. And if he is, with all the attention that's going to be paid to Max Crosby, I think there's going to be a huge opportunity for Tyree Wilson to feast. And I see some people in the chat mentioning Byron Young and Derek Hall. And I think those are both reasonable shouts. I really do, because I think they are both players that could potentially play right away. But I wanted to strike a balance between just taking a guy that got drafted late who got drafted really late that's just going to fall into a situation because the team isn't very good, over a situation like Tyree Wilson or Lucas Van Ness or Will McDonald's in, where they've got players in front of them that they themselves are talented, but the players in front of them are also pretty good as well. Is Nolan too off ball to consider? And I kind of considered Nolan, but and let me pull up the Eagles depth chart again. I had it open this morning when looking at this, and there was a reason why I couldn't get on board with Nolan. They've got Hassan Reddick, right? That's going to really stop them. That's really going to stop him from being on the field a ton, if at all, in his first season there, in Philadelphia. That's the concern that you would have. I don't hate it if you wanted to put him there. I don't love Tyree as a pick here, just to be honest. So, I could be swayed one way or another. So Will Anderson and Tyree Wilson were my 2 picks for my defensive end edge slots. We'll go to the interior defensive tackle. Look, I think these are both easy picks. But the first one for me is a guy who filled a immediate need for this team. They've been searching to solve this need for a very long time. And if you don't think he's going to start right away for said team with how they used their top draft pick on him, and he immediately is going to slot in on their depth chart as their top option, I will not hear otherwise. And that is Mozzie Smith for the Dallas Cowboys. I look at this and say there's nothing stopping Mozzie Smith from being the starting interior defensive lineman for the Dallas Cowboys. Jonathan Hankins ain't going to stop him. They drafted him this high. He literally fits exactly what they need out of the position. And so for me, it was slam dunk. I was a huge fan of the fit going in. Predicted it, was something that I was super on board with because it filled a need and that he was in that range. And so I am super on board with this. And so Mozzie Smith is player number one. I see some love for Jalen Carter. I hear you. I hear you. They still got Fletcher Cox. Jordan Davis is still there. Milton Williams is still there. We know what they did with Jordan Davis in year one. They kind of rotated him. They didn't play a lot. And I know it's Jalen Carter. It's a little different. But you got to prove to me that it's different. You got to show me that it's different before I fully get on board here. And so I get it. But I didn't go with Jalen Carter. I went with a different player. I understand that's going to cause a lot of hatred in the chat. I understand. But I went with a different player. I went with Brian Brzee of the New Orleans Saints. They lost a lot of guys in free agency. And I know right now, looking at the depth chart, Nathan Shepard is listed in front of him. I don't see that happening. I see Brian Brzee beating Nathan Shepard out and being a stalwart on this defensive line for the New Orleans Saints. They need it. They lost a ton of guys. David Onyemata, they lost in free agency this offseason, went to Atlanta. And so they're going to need help along the interior of this defensive line, and I think Brian Brzee provides that for them. You want to put Jalen Carter on the list? No problem. There's going to be no complaints here. I'm not going to be mad at you. I just decided to go in a different direction because I saw what they did with Jordan Davis last year, and I just kind of want to see how they're going to utilize Jalen Carter because they might try to do the similar kind of rotation, and that concerns me a little bit. I like Brzee can't get there. Even on limited snaps for that Eagles front, Carter will be better. Cansey is one, too. Kalijah Cansey is going to be probably an immediate starter, right? Going to be alongside Vita Vea. That's interesting. Carter will start on most downs. Am I gonna cave to the peer pressure? Okay. I'm gonna put Jalen Carter. You've convinced me. I will tell you. If they do the rotation early on, now Sam says stay strong, Chris. You know what? Sam, you've reconvinced me. I'm very easy to convince. Brian Brzee's back on the list. I'm going to stick to my guns here. I'm going to stick to my guns about worrying about this rotation in Philadelphia and how they're going to use him. He is just the worst player. That's not what we're doing. We're not looking at who is the better player. We're looking at who's going to be in the better situation. Who could have a bigger impact. Can I interest you in Dexter if we are being influenced? No, you cannot, Bailey. You cannot convince me. No, thank you. Gervon Dexter. Wilson and Brzee should have all the opportunities to take snaps. Tuttle, that's why they're both on the list. Carter and half the snaps will be more productive. Heldy, don't start with me. So there you have it. That's our defensive line that we've put together. Now we'll go to linebackers. We originally had 3. I've now parsed it down to 2. So I have 2 linebackers that I think are going to be able to be immediate impact players and have the best rookie seasons in 2023. I will tell you, it's not a great group to be picking from overall, but I like the 2 players that I selected. Bailey says Jack Campbell is the obvious one, and he is one of the 2 linebackers. He's the first name you wrote down. I mean, you draft a guy that high, the expectation is you're going to play him. There's no real competition for him. I mean, they have Derek Barnes, but he's going to play, Campbell's going to play inside, going to play the middle linebacker spot. And I just see they're going to let him feast. And, they've got Alex Anzalone. They've got James Houston rounding out that linebacker core there in Detroit. But I think Jack Campbell, again, use a first-round pick on a guy. I think he's going to get every opportunity to be on the field very, very early for them. And he's a good player. He was a good draft prospect. Ventrell Miller says Taylor B. Heldy says Drew Sanders Hive. Drew Sanders was one of the 3 linebackers, but he got cut when we made a change. Trenton Simpson in Baltimore. Okay. All right. These are all fantastic guesses. They're not the right guess, but they're all fantastic guesses. They're all guesses that I could get on board with. Heldy says, are you going to pick Deion Henley? Of course I'm going to pick Deion Henley. Are you familiar with the bits here on the show? Are you familiar with how much I love Deion Henley in the pre-draft process? I mean, what are we talking about here? I think he's going to play. Now you look at this room right now. They've got Kenneth Murray and they've got Eric Kendricks, which could get in the way here. It is a concern. It is a concern. But I just think they're going to get him on the field. Trenton Simpson suffers the same as Carter. Well, the thing with Trenton Simpson is, let me just make sure I've got their depth chart open. We've got Roquan Smith, we've got Patrick Queen, and we've got Tyus Bowser. Like, it's just as difficult as Deion Henley. Like that, like, I love Trenton Simpson, but like they got Roquan Smith, they paid him the money. They got Patrick Queen. Now, I think Trenton Simpson's going to be potentially a long-term replacement on the roster for Patrick Queen. They still got Tyus Bowser. Like, how are you getting on the field? LD says the thing about Trenton Simpson is that he's not good enough to make this list. No, was not considered. I mean, you can consider him. I didn't. Drew Sanders was the other player that I considered for this list. I think it's Jack Campbell, and then it's whoever you want from Drew Sanders, Deion Henley. Those were kind of the players that I considered. Like Drew Sanders, the linebacker group in Denver, they've got Josie Jewell, they've got Alex Singleton. Drew Sanders slots in behind both of those guys. They've also got Baron Browning. They got Randy Gregory rushing from the right outside linebacker spot. Marte Mapp, who has a pathway to a fun role in New England. Trevor, I considered him very strongly when looking for, because he's listed as a defensive end, I think. Was he listed as a defensive end? Where is he? Or is he listed as a linebacker? He's listed as a linebacker. So I considered him when discussing this group. I couldn't remember where I considered him, but it was here. I definitely considered him a ton when looking at this group. But I just went Deion Henley because I liked him the most. I have a feeling the second linebacker will be whoever has an injury in front of them. That's fair, Taylor, because when you look at this, like, you look at Drew Sanders probably behind the guys that we mentioned. Marte Mapu probably behind some of the guys that they already have there in New England. Like, let's look at that linebacker room really quickly. I forget where we ranked it. But, I mean, right now they've got Jawan Bentley and Jelani Tavai in front of him. If there's an injury there, he could play pretty quickly. You want to put Marte Mapu down? I'm not against it. I'm not against it. We go to the two corners. I think these are obvious. I also think the chat's going to hate me. Both can be true. I think these can both be very obvious selections, and I can also sit here and say that I think the chat's going to hate my decision. But when I looked at the corner spot, I think more so than anything else, opportunity is huge. If you're going to be on the field and be a CB1 for a team and be the main guy, that's going to move you up. That's going to move you up the list. Bailey says, I think we should have three corners, not three safeties. Well, we don't really have three safeties. We have two corners, two safeties, and we have the nickel. That's how we're breaking it down. So that's how it's broken down over the next 5 picks. As long as Forbes doesn't touch the list, Emmanuel Forbes is not on the list. Don't worry. Witherspoon easy, says Trevor Joseph. I hate to break it to you, Trevor. Devin Witherspoon not on the list. Christian Gonzalez is absolutely on the list. Christian Gonzalez absolutely on the list. Don't know what's going to happen in New England with Jack Jones. And so for me, Christian Gonzalez, who is already going to draw in, I think is one of their starting two line corners, immediately moves up the depth chart with the expectation that he's going to be the starting guy. And so Christian Gonzalez moves up the list from who's already probably going to be on this list because he was the top number 2 corner. But with Jack Jones now being sidelined, more than likely, we're going to move Christian Gonzalez up this list and as our top option. Our other option, I mean, folks, did you not see the news yesterday? Did you not see the news that Isaiah Rodgers is more than likely to be suspended for the entirety of the 2023 season, along with some other players? And when we get that news, we will react to it here on the TDN Daily podcast. Did you not see that news? Did you not expect me to come on this show talking about rookie defensive players that I like and not mention Julius Brents as one of the top corners in 2023? Did you expect me to completely forego my entire brand here for this list? I mean, there's some other great names that the chat has mentioned. Deonte Banks, a great shout. Joey Porter Jr., a great shout. I appreciate all of them. But after the news, Julius Brent's going to be a starting boundary corner day one for the Indianapolis Colts. Like, this is a slam dunk here. In fact, we might be looking at Julius Brents and Darius Rush playing starting corner spots for this Indianapolis Colts team week one of the regular season. And so I think this is obvious. I think it's Christian Gonzalez and Julius Brents. Now, again, I think Deonte Banks is a great shout. I think Joey Porter Jr. is a great shout. The Bears staff loves Stevenson if you believe the beat reporters early exciting early signs. Listen, we're not going to overreact to beat reporters and what they see in training camp or in practice. We're not doing this. I hadn't heard that news, so now your pick makes sense. Yeah, Todd, I mean, Schefter came out yesterday and said Isaiah Rodgers and a bunch of other players that we don't know yet are likely to get season-long suspensions. And I see, very quickly we can touch on this here on the show, but there's a competing thought process of, is Adam Schefter naming Isaiah Rodgers in that tweet because he's the player that we already know was under suspicion from the NFL, or is Isaiah Rodgers being named in that tweet because he's the most high-profile player? And that allows you to wonder if there are bigger names out there, depending on what camp you fall into. I can go either way. I can see the argument that people are making that if there was a bigger name and Schefter could confirm it, then that's the name that he would lead with. But the fact that he couched the tweet in, the suspensions haven't come down yet, they're going to come down next week or, in the coming weeks, that makes me think that maybe we don't know all the names. And so because we know of Isaiah Rodgers and we know that he was already under investigation, it's easier to confirm his name. But again, I could go either way, and so we'll just have to see how it plays out. But there are multiple suspensions coming, apparently, for alleged gambling violations. Tate's is super late here. We're going to get a recap before we lock everything in. Tate, of course. I mean, it's kind of already kind of locked because I lock it as we go, but I'll read it again just so we can make sure. So, okay. We've got to decide what we're doing here with the safeties because I'll let you in on the secret. My two safeties before we eliminated a linebacker spot, I had Brian Branch, and I had Jartavius Martin. And I had Jartavius Martin down as a safety because he classifies as a safety, but according to the Ourlads depth chart, he's going to play nickel for the Commanders. So if we just go with what I did, we move Jartavius to the nickel spot. We have Brian Branch as our one safety, and then we have to decide another safety. Is that what we want to do? Do we want to discuss Sidney Brownhive? Come on, Heldy. He's not even the starter. They got Reed Blankenship and Terrell Edmonds. Where's he playing? Heldy, I'd love to. I considered him. You can't just say he will start. I can't vouch. You can't vouch for Sidney Brown in this situation. We got to go by what the depth charts tell us right now. Like when you go to the Lions depth chart, they have Brian Branch as the backup nickel to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Like, we might have to take Branch off the list entirely. But then that opens up a whole new can of worms of who we're going to put on the list. My dad owns the NFL. I know he will start. Thanks, Heldy. Really appreciate that. So I think Jartavius Martin gets to be our nickel. I think that's how it has to work. And then we need to discuss with ourselves, is Jair Brown going to have a role in San Francisco? They've got Hufanga and Gibson. I don't really know. I don't really know what to do here, guys. If we're going to... This is why I just wanted to have two safeties. Antonio Johnson and Christopher Smith were nice, but I don't know their roles. Like, I'll tell you who I really wanted to put down was Jordan Battle. I really wanted to put down Jordan Battle, but he has the same problem that Sidney Brown has. Like, they've got Cam Taylor-Britt. They've got DJ Turner. I think he's going to play more corner. Sportsnut. He's listed as the backup to Cam Taylor-Britt. I think if you're going to pick somebody on the Cincinnati Bengals, you're going to pick Jordan Battle. The safeties are bad. Let's leave them both at safety and bring in Witherspoon to the nickel. So we want to move. We want to move Jartavius Martin back to. We want to move him back to safety. I mean, they have Kobe Bryant listed at nickel according to the depth chart. That's the way the Ourlads depth chart currently has. They have Witherspoon and Woolen, Tariq Woolen as the two corners, and then Kobe Bryant is listed as the nickel. We might have to make our own rules here. I mean, we're gonna have to because this is not going well. Not for a lack of trying, but just for the lack of this group. Jartavius Martin can live at safety. I do not love it, but needs must. He's a team first guy. He will understand. I mean, we're not really building a team. We're just making selections, but I get what you're saying. Jacksonville nickel, Trey Herndon might be suspended for an arrest and is not very good. Antonio Johnson might start there. Right, but Taylor B, if we're going to put somebody at the nickel, I kind of want it to be Jartavius Martin. And also, Devin Witherspoon's not listed as a nickel currently. Let's see here. Can I get... What do we got here? Looking to see if there's any rookie that we can get that can help us out. Martin is a stud. And he's listed at the position, which helps me. I was kind of cheating the other way by putting him as a safety when he wasn't really going to play safety. Is Cam Smith listed as nickel? That might be the play if he is. He's not. He's considered the backup to Xavier Howard according to the depth chart. This is not enjoyable. This is not enjoyable at all. I mean, just let me read you some of the safeties we got. We got Brian Branch, Jartavius Martin, we got Sidney Brown, we got Jair Brown, we got Jordan Battle. There is no safety listed as a starting pure safety on Ourlads. This is true. All right, so what do we want to do here, chat? I do not want to bring in another safety. It is a bad group. So we want to move Jartavius Martin back to regular safety and then take a corner and put a corner in as nickel. Is that what we want to do? Do we feel better about that? So then who do we want to fill that role for us? I think that is the best solution. Okay, well then who are we putting there? Are we putting Devin with are we just going to pick a random corner? Or are we going to try to stay true to picking somebody who fits that role? How do we want to do this? Because we're kind of just making it up now. So part of me just wants to pick Devin Witherspoon so we can get him on the list. Or Deonte Banks to get him on the list. But that kind of feels like we're cheating. I think Witherspoon will follow guys into slot a lot this year. DJ Turner we could consider. Just kind of scrolling through teams to see what we've got. All right, we'll get Devin Witherspoon down. I don't love it. But I think it's the only way that we can have this list. Witherspoon and Turner are the size of slot corners. We'll put Witherspoon because I think he's going to play more than Turner is, right? So if we're saying that Witherspoon and Turner are our two options and we consider them the same person, then we'll just pick Witherspoon because he's probably going to have more opportunity. So okay, so this is for you, Tate, since you joined late, but we're going to rehash the list here. So here's what we've put up. Here's what we've put together as our predictive all-rookie defensive team. Our two edge players are Will Anderson Jr. and Tyree Wilson. Our two interior defensive linemen are Mozzie Smith and Brian Brzee. Our two linebackers are Jack Campbell and Deion Henley. Our two corners are Christian Gonzalez and Julius Brents. Our two safeties are Brian Branch and Jartavius Martin. And our nickel is Devin Witherspoon. Helby says, no Eagles on the list. Chris confirmed hates me. I don't have an Eagle on either list. It's true. It's true. I stand by what I've done. You think you know a guy. Listen, Helby. Exactly. You know me. We battle all the time about the Eagles. I don't know why you're surprised that they didn't make the list. So that is our list. That is our predictive all-rookie team for 2023. Tate says, wow, I cannot get there on Wilson or Brents, but the damage is done, I guess. Tate, I will give you a quick, brief explanation. For Brents, it is the fact that he is now going to be easily their CB1 with Isaiah Rodgers getting suspended. An opportunity is huge for me. With Tyree Wilson, I considered a bunch of different edge guys, and they all had kind of the same problem, is that they're kind of behind on the depth chart, but they could very easily find their way into roles. And so for me, I let talent kind of persuade, and so I picked Tyree Wilson. But again, Tyree Wilson's the one pick that I don't necessarily love. So there's your quick explanation on both of those players. That is going to do it for us on this edition here of the podcast. We've got one more show here for you this week on the podcast. Transfer portal wide receivers on tomorrow's show. We did quarterbacks. We did running backs. We're now going to continue our series with the wide receivers on tomorrow's show. So you're going to want to come on back, see us again tomorrow, continue the refresher course to get you ready for the 2023 college football season. While you're waiting for that show, please rate, review, subscribe, share the show. We greatly appreciate it here. Helps us continue to grow, helps us build out this community that we have here on the TDN Daily Podcast. YouTube version of the show, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is when you can join us. YouTube, the Draft Network. If you can't catch us live Monday through Friday, you can also catch the show on demand. Just click the live tab. All of the VODs are there. You can catch all of them on demand, and you can see the video version at any time. But that is going to do it for us here on this edition of the show. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your Thursday, and I will talk with you all tomorrow. Chad, I was holding that in. I couldn't. Trying to get through the outro. Holy smokes. Oh, sorry. Need some water. Tuttle, I like the list. All those players should have ample opportunities, and their teams will be leaning on them early. Yeah, that's kind of the idea, Tuttle. Post show ranked the top 10 NFC quarterbacks, and then Heldy says, "Funny enough, Chris, the laptop I wanted literally went on sale for $400 today, so I bought it. Payday tomorrow saves me." Well, Heldy, I'm happy for you. Happy that you got your new laptop. Sportsnut wants to rank the top 10 NFC quarterbacks. All right. We'll do the thing. Hold on here. Let me pull up my TDN notes here where I keep all these lists. Top 10 NFC quarterbacks ahead of the 2023 NFL season. Number 1, Jalen Hurts. Okay. Now let's do the thing here. We've got Dakota Rain Prescott. Are we counting Stafford and Kyler Murray's healthy? Stafford, yes. Kyler, no. There's no information that tells me that Matt Stafford is not going to play at the start of the season. I have all inclinations that Kyler Murray's not. If everyone is healthy, it is Stafford next. I agree. So I think, assuming health, Matthew Stafford's going to go number 2. But let's just go through this real quick. Tate says Felix Nunukuzum will be best edge on Chiefs, just so everyone knows. Tate, I don't disagree with you. I don't think I think long term that's fair, but I just think early on in year 1 it just might not pan out for him. We got Daniel Jones, we've got Dakota Rain Prescott, we have Sam Howell, we have Justin Fields, we have Jared Goff, we have Jordan Love, we have Kirk Cousins, we have Desmond Ridder, we have Bryce Young, we have Derek Carr, we have Baker Mayfield, we have Kyler Murray, we have Matt Stafford, Brock Purdy, and Geno Smith. It's not Dak, Bailey. If anybody, it's going to be Derek, because I think Derek's better than Dak. I'm just figuring out what the order is going to be behind that. Is it Derek, Dak? Didn't we do this? I did this list. I think I had Kirk in front of Dak. They're basically the same quarterback. Derek. Bailey, I'm sorry, Bailey. I'm sorry. But if you are going to completely discount Derek Carr because of last season and not factor in that it was largely because of Josh McDaniels, then we just are not going to agree on this topic. We are not going to agree on this situation. I know Derek Carr wasn't good last year. Still almost got the 4,000 yards, by the way. Would have gotten there if he wasn't benched for 2 games at the end of the season so his team could get a better draft pick. because they were done with him and they didn't want him to get hurt, so they didn't have to guarantee his money for 2023. Still almost got to a 4,000-yard season, finished with like 3,500 yards. But please tell me more about how bad he was. What does Carr do better than Dak, Chris? Oh, I don't know. Just everything at the line of scrimmage ahead of the play? Literally everything? He's a better orchestrator of the offense. He is miles worse pre-snap. You just don't understand Derek Carr then. You just don't understand him. He's one of the best pre-snap quarterbacks in all of football right now. What the checks that he's able to make at the offensive line and some of the stuff that he's able to do, obviously not Josh McDaniels' year, is unbelievable. He's awesome at it. We just don't agree. We just don't agree on Derek, and that's fine. But there's no reason for us to keep rehashing this, Bailey. You are entrenched in your position, and I am entrenched in mine. Can we just all admit that they are both mediocre? No, Tate, we are not going to admit that. I'm putting Derek Carr third. I'm going to put. I think I want to put. I guess I'll put Dak fourth and Cousins fifth. And then guys we're considering now after this, we're considering Jared Goff. We're considering Geno Smith. We're considering Daniel Jones. I'm going to put Jared Goff sixth. You know what? No. I'm putting Jared Goff in front of Kirk Cousins. Wait, you think Carr is above mediocre? Like, where is Carr on the overall QB list? Who wants to tell Tate? Who wants to tell him? Who wants to tell Tate? Who wants to do it? Bailey? Does Heldy want to take that one? Sam Teets? Who wants to field that one on my behalf for Tate? Goff above Kirk is a no-go. Guys, Kirk, I mean, like, come on. We can't be going to bat for Kirk Cousins this hard. We just can't. Kirk is better than Goff by a lot. Does Bryce sneak into the top 10? He's certainly on pace. Tate, I'll tell you right now here where I had him because we did this list. (2023) QB rankings. I've got the list. I had Carr 8. Carr ended up being 8. Yeah, Carr ended up being 8. So we've got Kirk. I moved Kirk up to 5. We got Goff 6. And so now we're looking at like Geno Smith 7. I would take Geno Smith. Right here. Geno Smith. I don't think he's going to be what he was last year, but Geno Smith is fine. And then like we got 3 more spots. Yeah, listen, Tate, my belief in standing for Derek Carr is not from a position where I tried to convince other people that Derek Carr is a top 10 quarterback. I just think he's a top 10 quarterback. And that's just my personal belief. But I never try to convince other people. I think that's one thing that's very consistent about that take for me is I don't try to convince other people that Derek Carr's a top 10 quarterback. I have that belief. I lay out the case anytime somebody asks me to make it, and then that's it. I just move on because I know people don't believe it. So that's just the way that I approach it. There are things that I will go to bat for. There are things that I do truly believe, and I'm like, I don't understand how people don't see it. I can understand why people can't get there with Derek Carr. So here's what we're considering now. We're considering Brock Purdy, Justin Fields, Daniel Jones, Bryce Young. Those are the names that we're considering here at the back part of this list. I think Justin Fields needs to be on the list. I feel like Bailey would absolutely never, we never would talk about a show again. He would never be on a show again if I don't have Justin Fields on this list. I'd go Daniel Jones, then Fields. I kind of like that. Daniel Jones has a little bit more of a proven track record. So Daniel Jones, and then we'll do Justin Fields. And then we have one spot. And we're debating Brock Purdy. We're debating Bryce Young. We're debating Desmond Ridder. Jordan Love. Can't really get there with any of these guys. I think I'd go Bryce, but like, oof. I think I would take Bryce over Brock. Oh, man, I just hate this list. I'm gonna put Bryce Young down, but I don't love it. Janelle, I know Janelle, you would take Love over both. We don't know anything about Jordan Love. He is viewed just as similarly as Bryce Young. We want to ghost Kyler spot. We can't do that. We'll no sports not. I don't think Gino is going to do what he did last year. I don't. Yes, Heldy. Right, Janelle. We don't know anything about Young, so they're both equal. And I'll take the guy that I think is going to be better next year, and that's Bryce. We have another option. We can put Sean Clifford down. You're right, Heldy. We can put Sean Clifford down if you'd like. Sean Clifford is available to us here. Yep, Stenson and Clifford. Yep, we've got both of them. Both of them are available to us. Both of them are available options. I mean, Janelle, I get it. If you want Jordan Love here, like, I'm not going to be mad at you. I would take Bryce. Now, long term, I don't know. We're talking about literally the bottom of the list. Like, we are the bottom of our top 10 list, and this ain't a good list. Love also played prevent defense for most of that. Honestly, Jameis. No, we're not getting Jameis on this list. Well, there you have it. The top 10 NFC quarterbacks ahead of the 2023 NFL season. So glad you guys made me do this. It was a blast. It was such a fun list to put together. We have some fun lists that we put together. This was not one of them. But that is going to do it for us here on this edition of the show. Appreciate you all being here. Like I mentioned, we've got one more for you all tomorrow. Derek Carr is the what quarterback in the AFC? I would take Josh Allen in front of him. I would take Aaron Rodgers in front of him. I would take Lamar in front of him. Burrow in front of him. I would take Trevor in front of him. Mahomes, Herbert. He ends up being like he has him eighth. He ends up being eighth, which is exactly where I have him in the quarterback power rankings, because all 7 quarterbacks I have in front of him are AFC guys. Like, Jalen Hurts is behind all those guys, so he ends up being eighth. Because I would take Derek Carr in front of Jalen Hurts. I would. But I'm also like conscious enough to be like, hey, Jalen Hurts played pretty good last year, and so if we're doing this list, like, I would take Jalen Hurts. Like, Jalen Hurts should be the QB1. QB8 in the AFC and QB3 in the NFC. That's a big difference. That's a big difference. Bailey, I have him as a top 8 quarterback. Of course I would take him above Hurts. Like, I don't understand why that's shocking. I have to be intellectually consistent in my list. I can't just be willy-nilly about it. Here are the quarterbacks. Didn't we do this? I gotta find the list because this is a different list. I need to find the list in which we did this show. But I had him eighth ultimately. I think when it was all said and done. I'm sorry. I just like Derek Carr. What do you want me to say? We need to get you a support group for when the season goes bad. Well, if this season goes bad, we're going to be out. Because my whole case is give the guy a better supporting cast and watch what happens. And I have to go back and find that show. It's somewhere in the archives. I can go back and find it and see ultimately how the list, because I can't find the list in my notes. Devontae Adams is a bad supporting cast. Really, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I had to watch Velus Jones, Equimini, St. Brown, and Dante Pettis, and you won't give Fields the benefit of the doubt. You're right. I won't give Fields the benefit of the doubt. Hell, D, we're so back, baby. We don't need more car discourse. We can just agree to disagree, and I'm okay with that. I have never once been upset with people who don't have Carr in the top 10. I don't agree. I'd have him in the top 10, but that's fine. We don't need more Carr discourse. Now you're just all trolling me. The Cardinals, Caleb Williams will be a top blank NFC quarterback. We're not doing this. There's no need to do this. We can have a differing of opinions, and it can be okay. I can like Derek Carr. You guys cannot like Derek Carr. It's okay. I think after the top 5 or 6 quarterbacks anyway, it doesn't really matter. Bailey, if the Saints go 5-12 and Derek Carr is an active participant in why they're 5-12, you are not going to hear a single excuse from me. You are going to hear me say, dude wasn't good, and he's going to move down the list. Chris is so anti-Fields, I'm going to have to hate Carr. Shame. I'm not anti-Fields. Healthy Kyler would rank 4th, 5th. He'd be right in that tier with Stafford and Carr. I think he's probably he's probably in that 3 to 5 range. I don't hate Justin Fields. But all right, we have one more show tomorrow. No, it is not going to be held. The suggested topic of Kyler's top trade targets for 2024. We're going to continue our refresher course on the transfer portal. We're going to look at the wide receivers that have changed teams ahead of the 2023 NFL season. Can't wait to see you all tomorrow. Hope you all can make it. Should be a fun way to close out the week. Maybe we'll sneak in some free-for-all topics at the end as well. But I appreciate you all being here. Appreciate all of the discourse, despite us getting back into the weeds on Derek Carr. But I hope you all have a great rest of your Thursday, and I'll talk with you all tomorrow.